to the cloud. That's going to be easiest. All right. So I'm going to start all over again. No, I'm just kidding. But welcome again today to UC Santa Barbara's Diversity at UCSB. Here's the agenda for today. We are going to do information about UC Santa Barbara's commitment to essentially increasing campus diversity and how we are supporting and providing services to our increasingly diverse community of students. So with that being said, if you do have any questions, of course, this is a webinar. I cannot see your lovely faces, but you're more than welcome to use the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. Between myself and my colleague Marcus, who's here today, we will be able to assist you with any questions that you might have. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Campus commitment. Now, the University of California, Santa Barbara is indeed committed to fostering a community that embraces rich cultural, racial, gender, and social diversity. It actively nurtures the campus by engaging in recruitment, outreach, and academic preparation for its students, not just the students, faculty, and staff members as well. So this statement was taken from our Department of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion's mission statement, and it truly captures our commitment to DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, not only at the institutional level, but constitutes as essentially a framework or a grounding framework that all campus departments, faculty, and staff members aim to model in order to support an increasingly diverse student population. Now, this presentation is going to highlight the various resources and support services that really aim to uphold this commitment that you see on the screen through our strategic outreach efforts and intentional programming and support services needed to retain UC Santa Barbara's diverse and increasingly diverse student body. All right, so the Office of Admissions, which is us, that is us. Now, some might argue, and I believe it, that we in university admissions offices are the first starting point towards increasing enrollment diversity at the university. Our office essentially seeks to recruit and enroll an incoming class that represents a highly academically qualified and diverse student body. Now, in the context of higher education, the University of California system, as you all know, is the world's leading public research university system. And because the UC system has built a culture of academic excellence on our campuses and really is known for our incredible student outcomes, we innately attract academically qualified, or if you will, competitive students. But how do we go about affirming and supporting students from diverse backgrounds and improving college access for students from historically underrepresented groups that may, as you all know, as educators, that may not have the same opportunities, resources, and or support compared to other students, right? Now, with the limitations of Prop 209, which has been in place, this is new maybe from some institutions outside of the state of California, but has been in place at the University of California since 1996, that essentially prohibits UCs and public institutions in California from granting preferential treatment to any individual group on the basis of race, sex, color, ethnicity, or natural origin. Now, this has really challenged all UC campuses. UCSB is not excluded from it, with recruiting, enrolling, and retaining a student body that really reflects our states, our California states, cultural, racial, geographic, and socioeconomic diversity. Now, we as a system, of course, are committed to making sure higher education is accessible to all students from all backgrounds. And the office at UC Santa Barbara is comprised of various units, outreach units that support these efforts, including the freshmen, which is the team I oversee, freshman team, transfer outreach team, the diversity initiatives team, which Marcus oversees. And these teams all provide counseling services to prospective students and coordinate several programming and resource efforts to support college students' college readiness, and all students, but with intentional efforts to support our first generation low income and historically underrepresented students as well. Now, a few resources that we've built out to increase equity and college access includes our on-demand YouTube programming, which many of you are familiar with, and tutorials offered in both English and Spanish, and several on-campus events geared towards increasing college readiness for students coming from those low income and historically underrepresented backgrounds. Now, We also heavily rely on the support of our campus community as a whole and community partnerships in advancing the diversity of not just UC Santa Barbara's applicant pools, but of all higher education pools through their programming and outreach efforts. So some of those partners that we do have on campus, which is the Math, Engineering, Science, and Achievement Program, also known as MESA. We also have the Destination College Advising Corps, or DCAC, and the Early Academic Outreach Program, EAOP, all of which supports first-generation underrepresented high school students with the tools and resources needed to prepare students for college, right? Now, lastly, providing these resources to not just you all as supporters, but also parents and guardians. So you all are informed of the resources available to support the students in the next steps towards their academic and college journeys. Now, I'm going to go ahead and continue to share just more information, but more specifically suited to the transfer pathway, and then I'll briefly pass it along to my colleague Marcus, excuse me. But outside of that freshman pathway, our incredible transfer admission team members, they do have several transfer pathway programs that are designed to prepare entering and continuing community college students to transfer to the UC program and hopefully UC Santa Barbara. Now, the two programs are Transfer Making It Happen, or TMIH, and the Transfer Preparation Academy. Now, Transfer Making It Happen is a summer program open to low income and or first generation California high school seniors. So this is specific to my counselors out there working with high school seniors that are interested in going into the transfer pathway. We do have that program available. And we also have the Transfer Preparation Academy. And I see that my colleague has added a link into the chat. So if you're curious about more information about those two programs, please go ahead and use the link into the chat. And I think actually, Marcus, do you mind resharing it just one more time, but to everyone? I think it just went to the hosts and panelists. Sorry. All right, we're going to do it one more time. And just both of these programs for transfer initiatives are completely free for students, and they do aim to support all students' college readiness and provide critical information needed, such as coursework preparation, major requirements, and this is ultimately to transfer within a timely manner. So I know I'm going to go ahead and pass the baton now so that Marcus can share out some amazing initiatives that he has in the world of diversity initiatives. Marcus, go ahead and take it away.
All right, thanks, Javon. So historically, I guess I think we should start, back in the day. UCSB has been a space ever since the 60s for activism and social activity. So people think of Santa Barbara, they might not think of that, but that's actually the case. And the diversity initiatives efforts that we're putting forth are directly related to that lineage. So so we're starting with the North Hall takeover of 1968, when Black students took over North Hall in response to practices they wanted to see improve for Black students at UCSB. They got us, one of the first Black studies departments in the country. Lots of strong programming. We also were the place for El Centro, right? So Planet Santa Barbara was created at UCSB. So we have a really strong tradition of making sure that all our communities are heard on this campus. So our diversity initiatives efforts are just an extension of that, right? Our efforts go into making sure that we bring in a good, strong, quality class of students who will come to UC and Santa Barbara and succeed. We do this a few different ways. We have campus visit programs. One of those programs is called LA to SB, where we have about 15 to 20 high school groups that we actually bring up to the school. So they spend a half day on campus. They get student panels. They get more culturally acclimated tours. They eat in the dining commons. And it's a really, really fun day, right? So the plan is for them to really get to know us and learn more about us as a campus. What continues, though, is our efforts working with those students. So they're typically juniors. When they're seniors, we're going to support them with their personal insight questions. We're going to help them with their applications. We're going to make sure they have all the tools they need to succeed while they're applying to UCSB. In addition to those resources, we have online resources like our community's website. What's really important to us is our students are familiar and know the resources that are available to them, whether it be churches or barber shops or places like that are off campus or areas on campus where they can actually get the support that they need. Right. So our online resources, the community's website is one of those efforts to really help with that. And then finally, we have student-initiated outreach programs. What's important to us and what's important to us in this Office of Admissions and as a unit is that we encapsulate the entire campus and university in our efforts. So diversity is not something that we can just do in our office, right? Admissions is not going to do that by itself. It's going to require the education opportunity program. It's going to require the On This Center, right? And all these other centers we'll learn about later to make sure that these students feel welcome and then they succeed. So some of those efforts we've put forth are hosting conferences like Umoja. We've hosted BSU conferences. We've had large scale events for American Indian students as well. So we're just really working to make sure that our populations are receiving the support they need in order to succeed while they're students at UCSB.
Awesome. Thank you, Marcus, so much for that overview of diversity initiatives and all the amazing work that you and your team are doing. So I know that there's a lot on this slide, and I actually probably could have done about 3 slides just to talk about diversity in the different populations and groups that are at UCSB, but I really wanted to give you a snapshot or a look at a glance of UCSB's enrollment diversity, okay? So firstly, I think we want to focus on the right side of the screen for this past year's fall 2023 admission stats. Now, in terms of applications, we received a record number, approximately 110,000 freshman applications with an admission rate of approximately 28% and enrolled about 5,000 first-year freshman students. Now, for transfer applications, we had approximately 17,000 applications with a transfer rate of 60%. Yes, you heard it, 60%, which is definitely a big difference between our freshman admission rate, but luckily we do have an amazing program called the Transfer Admission Guarantee for those students attending California community colleges to essentially increase and help to increase access to coming to the university with that guarantee. Now, of the 60% that were admitted, we did enroll about 1,900 transfer students. Now, in terms of diversity, especially in the student status, when we're looking at freshmen between transfer, our transfer applicant and enrollment numbers are steadily increasing. So shout out to the transfer team for supporting those students in those that are interested in going into the university as a community college or junior standing student. Now, a little bit of UCSB history, a little history lesson here. In 2015, we were designated both as a Hispanic Serving Institution, so HSI, and also an Asian American, Native American, Pacific Islander Serving Institution, also known as AANAPISI, by the U.S. Department of Education. And this is really reflecting our undergraduate student enrollment of Latinx students, Asian American students, and Pacific Islander students. Now, our campus was the first member of the Association of American Universities, AAU, to become an HSI, which we're really proud of that achievement. And with that HSI designation, we are eligible for federal funding. And this is helpful, right, to continue developing new programming efforts to support our students. Now, we still have a lot of work to do, okay? And this is clear with the numbers on the screen in terms of ethnic diversity, but our enrollment pool is slowly but surely, we're definitely making progress in that. Now, we are proud to say that in terms of our Latinx student population, this past year has been our highest new student enrollment for Latinx students, and we hope that that dial continues to move forward for all ethnicities as our office and other campus departments make intentional strides to recruit and support a diversifying student population. Now, in terms of current student enrollment, approximately 34% of UCSB's students are the first in their families to go to college, and 62% of UCSB's undergraduate student body is a part of a historically underrepresented minority group. And lastly, I'll share out in terms of geographic diversity, absolutely, because that matters. Our students represent 49 out of the 50 of the United States, including DC. But I said 49 out of 50 counselors. Any guesses? And I'll go ahead and make sure that the chat is indeed open this time. But any guesses which state is missing? We have students from all over the country, excluding one state. So go ahead and share out. Okay, I heard Wyoming. I didn't hear it actually. I saw it written out. Wyoming, that is the wrong guess. Any other takers? We have, of course, California, Nevada. I could do literally Alabama, Alaska, Arizona, Arkansas. I see Idaho in the chat. Idaho is not it. Okay, I'm going to give you all a hint just to save time. Vermont? No, Vermont's not it. It is going to be one of the Dakotas. Now, this is a 50-50 shot on which one it is. I'm waiting. Let's see. Let's see who can get it right. Is it North or South? North or South Dakota? North Dakota. We got it. Yes. So North Dakota. So counselors out there, if I have any North Dakota counselors out there, please send your students our way. We need that representation. As you all know, it matters. So thank you all for playing the which state is missing game. All right. I'm going to pass the baton back to Marcus.
Yeah, so just as Javon was saying, it's so important to have all kinds of diversity, right? We have cultural, we have ability, we have geographic. And part of the reason for that is because when you come to college, the most important thing is not going to be necessarily going to class every time, right? It'll be experience you had, with a roommate from a whole different part of the world, or being part of a student org and having to learn how to be part of a team or lead, right? So learning how to communicate and function and work with people of all walks of life is such an important part of the college experience. And one thing at UCSB we're so proud of is the fact that we are very much an undergraduate serving institution, right? That means out of our 26,000 students, 23,000 are undergraduates. That's our focus, right? These students earning their bachelor's degrees. We want to make sure these students graduate successfully, not just, with a 2.0 in debt. We want to see our students graduate with experiential success, right? With learning how to navigate a program, learning how to manage a team, right? Having internship experience, strong GPAs, research, right? And strong identities. That's really, really important. So looking at some of these communities we have here, these are all efforts that we take in order to make sure that our students that are here are graduating successfully. So we're looking at the Women's Center. We're looking at the Transfer Student Center, which is very, very catered and deliberate. The DSP program is amazing because it focuses on students that have short-term or long-term disabilities, right? So if, say, for example, you break your leg and you need a wheelchair and somebody to help you get to class for a few months, that's one thing. But say you have you might be hearing disabled, and you'll have more support, long-term support for that, right? Veteran Center, undocumented students, non-traditional student resource center is very, very important for our students that might be starting at UCSB with a dependent, right? We have a lot of resources for students like that. They get annual zoo passes for free. They get priority enrollment. They have access to folks that can actually watch and supervise their kids while they're studying and things like that. And then finally, we have the RCSGD, or the Resource Center for Sexual and Gender Diversity, which they offer confidential services, they offer programming, and they fund student organizations. So these communities are so important to us because these are the folks that are coming in here and getting out here successfully. That's what we're looking for. Other types of diversity is our cultural centers. So a little, disclosure, before I was in admissions, I was an EOP counselor. EOP is the Education Opportunity Program. It's a program designed for first-gen students to help them succeed, right? And really help them kind of figure out and navigate the university. So we support them in a variety of ways, academically, socially, personally, right? There's all type of processes that are available. We can help students in terms of dealing with things like homesickness or having issues with roommates, to financial aid problems, all the way to picking classes and looking at graduate programs. So it's a very, very comprehensive and amazing program that also houses cultural centers, right? So we have the Afro-Diasporic, the American Indian, the Asian Resource Center, Chicanos Latinx, El Centro, and the Middle Eastern, North African, and South Asian Resource Center. These are amazing centers because they're not just places for programming, right? They all have full-time staff, and they all have student interns that run the centers, and there are places for programming. You can go in there and go take you a nap, get you lunch, go to a meeting, right? They also have amazing activities like a celebration of Familia, Black Family Weekend, the Lantern Festival, the Harvest Dinner, all kinds of amazing programs that are happening over there. Cultural student organizations, 60 of those, right? So when students come here, we want them to become agents of their own success, right? So our students are joining our Black student unions. They're joining, KP, other programs that really are going to help them develop the skills, right? Organization, leadership, teamwork, all these different really important skills for the workplace, right? And they're learning those skills here. Multicultural Center is amazing. There's all types of programming that happens there. Annually, that they have amazing events all the way from movie screenings to performances. And then can't miss talking about the OBSD, right? The Office of Black Student Development, which right now has a full-time staff of 6 to serve Black students. And there's academic support there as well. What I do want to mention is that these opportunities here are very, very strong for not only jobs, right? Because we're looking at every department mentioned here has student employees, right? So that's money for students. But there are also so many opportunities for research at UCSB. So when I was a student here, I did my research. I was an art history and Black studies major. I did a two-quarter study on the communication between Black and Mexican artists during the Harlem Renaissance movement, because I wanted to learn more about that relationship. I spent 2 quarters doing that, got, the GPA booster. I got letters of rec for grad school, and also, a writing sample as well. So that kind of stuff that you can do here is so important. And these are ways that you're going to learn more about yourself and others outside of the classroom. It's really, really important. Finally, I'll mention the 16 living learning communities. Again, that goes into this experiential learning process where you're not only maybe attending classes, but you're also getting experience while you're in the res halls, right? So your RA might understand your circumstance a little bit better. There's going to be programs and mentoring programs and tutoring programs in the halls to make sure that our students succeed. So that in addition to being able to go abroad to 40 different countries, right? 40 different programs. There's a lot you can do here, and you can leave this campus with a very strong sense of self and have a strong sense of others as well. In terms of these programs, what's important to us again is our students coming here and having that process streamlined for them so they can graduate. So super important, the STEP program, STTP, FSSP, and Transfer Edge. These are amazing programs because they're built in for students before they start their fall quarter, right? So by the time you start school in the fall, you're going to have a little friend group. You're going to know where the buildings are, right? And you have a sense of the pedagogy of the campus. And these programs have demonstrated that they help students succeed. For example, for the STEP program, which is a 1 week program for incoming freshmen, students that participate in that program have a higher graduation rate than the general UCSB population, right? So it's demonstrated success. In the transfer program as well, when students come into the campus and they learn those really important pieces before they have to focus on their academics, it really eases that transition. So anybody who's starting at a university, I highly suggest that you encourage your students to join one of these pre-college programs or these pre-enrollment programs.
All right. Thank you, Marcus. So we're going to continue on, and I hope everyone can still see me because my screen is black, but okay, I can see myself now. All right, we're going to continue on with academic support, and Marcus kind of dived into some of the resource centers and different transition programs that are available, but what support systems are in place to ensure that the students that you maybe advocate to come to UC Santa Barbara indeed have that academic support to be successful. So with those resources that Marcus mentioned, we have a few additional resources that pertain to academic success and retention of our undergraduate students. Now, a few of those resources, they're not all listed here on the screen, but I do want to highlight a few, are going to include the Opening New Doors to Accelerating Success, also known as ONDAS Student Center, that is funded by the Department of Education's HSI, Hispanic Serving Institution grant, right? We were able to provide this center, this space, this resource to students because we are an HSI institution. And ONDAS provides mentoring, academic support, a physical space, a learning space, and also assistance with transitioning from, high school, from the community college. And it's primarily for our underrepresented and first generation students. Now, we also have the Campus Learning Assistance Program, or CLAS for short, that offers free tutoring services for general academic skills, such as classes in fighting off procrastination. Okay, I need to take this class currently, to making a study plan, to time management, and even a workshop on confidence to battle feeling underqualified. And we all know imposter syndrome, or not all of us, but some of us. I've experienced it. But this is an amazing resource that our CLAS program provides for students and all students, no matter what background. But we know that this is going to be potentially really key for some students that are first generation students or students that are coming from under-resourced communities. Now, lastly, all students do have the opportunity to participate in cutting edge research, as we are a tier 1 research institution, and they do, of course, have the opportunity to participate in that cutting edge research and different creative opportunities, and find also faculty mentorship through their own research program. Now, Many students may not know exactly where to start in seeking those research opportunities, but there are going to be several ways for all UCSB students to get involved and engage with research and also find funding to support their projects. Okay. Such as you can see on the screen, the California Alliance for Minority Participation, also known as CAMP program, offered both in the summer and also through the full entire school year. And this does provide resources and opportunities to underrepresented students that are interested in going into STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. There is also the Maximizing Access to Research Centers, or the MARC program, and this is specific for low income or disadvantaged and or URM, underrepresented minority students interested in going into graduate school, and specifically going into graduate school, then health fields after graduation. Last but not least, we have the McNair Scholars Program, which aims to increase the number of first generation, low income and or underrepresented minority students in PhD programs. And this is essential. The goal of this program essentially is to diversify the faculty in colleges and universities across the nation through this pathway program, if you will. Now, in terms of personal support, all students absolutely may seek financial assistance through scholarships, grants, work study options, right? Financial support can be found through academic pursuits, such as research, as I mentioned, or personal need potentially. Now, internal scholarships are going to be managed by UC Santa Barbara's Office of Financial Aid and Scholarship Office. And for UC Santa Barbara specifically, these scholarships are primarily awarded on the basis of need. Okay, so for many of my counselors out there, as you're working with senior students that have already applied to the different universities, I do want to state for the University of California that you need to encourage them, please, to complete the FOSFA, the Free Application for Federal Student Aid, or the California Dream Act, the CATA applications, by March 2nd. Now, I know that there's a different deadline out there, which is totally fine. That still holds, but March 2nd is going to be UC's priority deadline for full scholarship consideration. It's also the opportunity for students to receive their financial aid packages shortly after they've been admitted to the UC campuses. So this is why we emphasize that they have that completed by that March 2nd deadline for the UC systems. Okay, now moving on, just community announcement. Now, in terms of additional personal support, UC Santa Barbara's Counseling and Psychological Services Department, they do provide timely and, on the basis of this presentation, diversity at UCSB, they offer timely and culturally appropriate mental health services to UCSB's diverse student body. And many of those services are going to be free of charge. Now, a service that I want to highlight that I think is absolutely fantastic is identity-specific groups called community groups. And this is going to be a space for students to process current issues, provide support to one another, essentially through community building. Now, some of those groups are the ADHD support group, right? We also have the Black Men's Barbershop Talks, or the Nuestra Comunidad, and the Undocu Student Support Group, to name a few. Okay. Lastly, on this slide, because I know we're at that 30-minute mark, and I want to make sure that you all have the information needed, but continue on with your day, is UCSB's Career Services. And they do offer multiple workshops, from self-exploration assessments to resume workshops and other career development events. And they also provide free resources and intentional programming for a variety of different identities, communities, including first generation, international students, resources for LGBTQ plus students, students with disabilities, undocumented students, transfer students, and more. Okay. Now, let's talk about before coming into the university. I'm going to rewind a little bit, but we do also provide a lot of programming and resources available to your students currently, whether they're in high school, whether they're potentially in community college, especially with those Office of Education partnerships resources that are at the bottom of the screen. For my high school students out there, or students, counselors working with high school students, should I say, we do have some programming that's available through our summer research programs. And these are going to be unique opportunities to earn college credit for students while engaging in research through the summer sessions department. Now, if you're interested in maybe promoting this out to your students that want to get involved, want to get experience, want to gain insight for the college going experience, what have you, there is a QR code on the screen. I'll also add the link into the chat. But these two programs, Summer Research Academies and also Research Mentorship Program, is going to be for students 9th through 11th grade to participate in different research tracks at UC Santa Barbara. Now, to wrap up the presentation, I am going to go ahead and encourage you all, if you have any questions, now's the time. You can use the Q&A at the bottom of your screen, and myself and or Marcus will go ahead and answer any questions that you might have about diversity at UCSB and Office of Admissions and the other resource centers that were mentioned and services that were mentioned to support a diverse student body at UC Santa Barbara. Now, to highlight some counselor resources, I do want to encourage you all to check out the counselor webpage. You can also take a look at our YouTube channel just to explore some of the different counselor chats that we've had in the past. But again, as a reminder, as I mentioned earlier in the presentation, the counselor webpage will share out some of the upcoming webinars that we do have lined up for the rest of the winter and upcoming spring term. And then we will continue to have a few counselor chats every couple of times in a given season. Now, questions. What questions are there, if any? And if not, that is totally fine. Continue with your days, but we are here to address any questions that you might have.